Welcome back, or welcome to Grateful and Full of Greatness. I'm your host, Mark Glicini. On this podcast, I sit down with guests who, in my opinion, live their lives with the pursuit of greatness in mind. This platform allows me to discuss and to explain strategies that go into reaching peak performance. This is episode 33. My esteemed guest today is my fellow Chaos Lacrosse Club captain, Blaze Riorden. After being awarded as the Premier Lacrosse League's most valuable player, Goalie of the Year for the third straight time, and winning the 2021 PLL Championship, it's fair to argue Blaze just finished the greatest lacrosse season of all time. His accolades and accomplishments do not stop there. He's from Fairport, New York, and attended the University of Albany, where he was an All-American and received American East Defensive Player of the Year honors. On top of being a PLL All-Star, Blaze plays forward in the National Lacrosse League's Philadelphia Wings, as well as a member of Team USA's men's indoor lacrosse team. As a teammate and friend, I've had the honor and privilege of seeing his preparation, dedication to the sport of lacrosse, and appreciation for those who have paved the way before him. I'm excited for Blaze to share his story and perspectives because I know they derive from gratitude and a relentless elite mindset. Blaze, thanks for making the time and coming on.
My man, champ, let's go. Fired up to be here, fired up to tell my story. And you messed up one part. You said I arguably had the best. No, we had the best lacrosse season ever. World champs, man. World champs. Doesn't get much better than that.
That's for sure, man. First and foremost, coming off of our 2021 season, and championship, what would you attest your success to if you had to point out a few things, and what helped you get to this point?
I always, attest, any of my success to, the fact that when that whistle blows, I feel like nothing else in the world matters. I have such a narrow mindset that all I have to do is play lacrosse, which I've done from the time I've been 4 years old. I've loved every minute of it. There's been tough times, but there's also been great times. But through it all, I've loved it. And I attest that to the people around me. My friends, my family, my teammates, my coaches, my mentors. Surround yourself with good people, and you don't feel any of that outside noise. I'm comfortable. I trust every guy in front of me. I know they trust me, and that kind of allows me to play in this free flow state that just allows me to do what I've done for 23 years now.
When I was watching The Last Dance, they say a crazy thing about Michael Jordan, how it wasn't his ability to jump higher or run fast. It was his ability to be completely present. And peak performance is expressed in that present moment. And it's really hard to sometimes shut off, the anticipation or the anxiety of the future, or the reflection and the stress of looking back. You use things like you are able to cut off that outside noise. That segues right into my second question for you, and the fact that there are ways in which we lead up to becoming more of a present person. You brought up the fact that you've had mentors. If we turn the clock back, could you share, when you started playing the sport and who were some of those early childhood influences in your life?
Yeah, I was born with a stick in my hand. My father played lacrosse. To this day, I argue he still has some of the softest hands I've ever seen. But from the time I was 4 years old, I always had a stick in my hand. He coached me. You used the word grateful earlier, and I'm grateful for my father introducing me to this game and teaching me the right way to do things. And he wasn't a father that was out there to, make it feel like a job. He always stressed the importance of fun. And, me and all my friends grew up playing this game, and our town was a lacrosse town. And my senior year of high school, without me even knowing, all the kids that I graduated with went to our varsity head coach, Mike Torelli, and said that they wanted my dad on staff for their senior year because of they know how much he's done for all of us and has done for the program. So my dad's a huge influence on that. But at the same time, it was lacrosse 24/7. My mom got me to all my events. My dad was always there. The support group of, just doing what I love and being a kid. And they're some of the best moments of my life. And I think, I've just been lucky to have that constant, atmosphere in my life. My high school experience was great, and then I go play for Coach Marr at the University at Albany, and we're unique. The Great Danes are known for taking our shirts off for roster pictures and having a good time and playing the air guitar and playing Pearl Jam and kind of just having fun playing the fastest growing game in America right now. And then it transitions into 2015. I'm a junior in college, and I get selected to the U.S. men's national indoor team, and where I'm the only collegiate player on the team. And I said probably about 40 words my first day there, and me, I'm not afraid to talk. And I just observed guys like Joel White and Chris O'Doherty and Brett Manny and Greg Downey and Casey Powell and all these legends, and I just learned so much from just observing. And I think that was one of the first times in my life that I kind of wasn't like the star front of the show. I took a backseat role and got to observe, and it helped shape me into the person I am today and the leader that I am today. Junior year, I get voted as a captain. I take those skills, captain my senior year, and then the last part of it is you talk about gratitude. And I was lucky enough to move up to the Akwesasne Mohawk Reservation. The roots of the game, the Haudenosaunee people were the ones that gifted this game and created this game. And the fact that I got to go to the roots of the game and really explore, and one thing that I took, one of the biggest pieces, is that they treat their elders with such respect, in the fact that their past experiences are all like today's history. Like, you learn so much, and those are the people that are all your games. Like, they're not my family members. They don't know who I am, but they're sitting in the crowd because the game of lacrosse means that much to them, and they believe that it heals their spirits, and it's good medicine, and it adds a little extra something every time you strap up that helmet, knowing how much it truly means to some people. So just the contingency of all those things got me smiling and where I am today.
There's so much to pull from that answer, and I loved every bit of it. I'm reading a book called The Season of Life, and it talks about the definition of a man being character, relationships, and cause greater than self. I mean, you talked about the relationships that you had. I mean, your character development of being an observer first. On past episodes, I've talked about how the best leaders are exceptional followers first, and emulating until they can innovate anything. And I really liked how you talked about how you treat elders, right? Because I for one, think it's a rare thing, but it's such an important thing to look up, ask questions, and emulate a lot of people that came before you. I said it in the introduction, but you've always, it's always been awesome for me to be in the locker room with you, to hear you talk about gratitude, on how you talk about causes greater than self all the time. And it ripples to your very soul when I hear you talk about it. That's why I wanted to have you on this podcast. And when you reflect on your evolution, as a student athlete to the professional level, what would you say is the same and what's different about young Blaze to now?
I think it's important to, and it's a tight line in my book, because I've seen it, I've seen it affect people's career in the wrong way. But you have to have a little bit of the swagger to you, the swagger. And I got the dance, and I got the head bob, and that's something that I've had from the start. I'm unique in the fact that I'm a little bigger than most players in our league, and I don't look as say your typical mold of a professional athlete, but mentally inside of here, I truly believe to myself when I look in the mirror that I put in the work, and I truly don't believe anyone has outworked me, as I'm sure other people feel the same way. But being able to look in the mirror and look into my own two eyes are really the keys to giving me that swagger and confidence that I need. It doesn't really need to come from anything else. It doesn't need to come from good games. It doesn't need to come from, winning. It just needs to come from me looking in the mirror and being able to tell myself, you put yourself in the best spot to be successful at this moment in time. And I feel like I do that week in and week out, and it's driven by love and passion for this game, and love and passion for being a part of a team. I think that's an aspect of this game that's not talked about enough. It's talked about, but it really goes hand in hand with winning. Like, I would say it's literally right under, if not the same, just being in a locker room with a group of guys that are sharing the same passion and the same desires and the same goals and wanting the best for one another and willing to do whatever it takes for one another, the betterment of the team over yourself. And one of the biggest things I think that has changed is just not getting too high on the highs and lows on the lows. I found myself as a young buck, when things started going my way, kind of, jumping the gun, as my dad would say. Don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun, and I'd get, one of my most prime examples is my freshman year. Our first game, we go into the Carrier Dome. We beat Syracuse for the first time, double overtime. I'm a freshman, my first start, on top of the world. Go to play the Drexel Dragons in snowy Philadelphia, and it's halftime, and the score's 10-2. I got a handful of saves, and I'm walking off to the locker room, and these dudes are chirping me, and I'm saying, "Oh, look at the scoreboard, yeah," all this stuff. We end up going and losing the game 19-18, and it's something that that kind of stuck with me, and it didn't fully click because there were still times my freshman year that I kind of let myself get a little too big for my bridges, not to the fact that it trickled down to the team, but just inside my own head, like that swagger then turned into a little too much arrogance, and that state of mind that has found me the success is now a little bit blurred and a little bit wider. Now I'm worried about what I'm wearing, and now I'm worried about just the color of my stick and stuff like that. And I just learned to narrow those things out and really focus on the point at hand. And the easiest way that I explain it is, it's already hard enough to be a professional athlete. It's even harder to be a professional lacrosse goalie. And then it's even the hardest to play against, 19 other guys that want to take everything that you have. You can't beat yourself up. You can't put obstacles in front of your way if you're trying to get to your final destination. The less obstacles, the faster you're going to get there. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned.
I was just talking about this yesterday, the kind of the unforeseen pressure that we kind of put upon ourselves. And I loved how you walked us through the fact that there's already enough pressure. Why would you already add to it? Dr. Christina Versari, who's a mentor in sports psychology, and I believe the best sports psychologist on the planet right now, she said something meaningful to me. It was, everywhere you go, there you are. So I really like this idea of how you look yourself in the mirror and you kind of challenge yourself, come to self-love yourself, and therefore you're better for others, and etc. I was watching this 60 Minutes one time, and there's this chess coach that goes to the middle of nowhere down south, and he says that he could teach anybody anywhere to play chess. And where I go with that is, he says one of the most important things in chess is meaningful losses. You talk about that 1918 loss. I mean, that stuck with you, right? And it makes you a better lacrosse player, and man, to this day. And then the last thing that you talked about with the highs and the lows, there's a Navy SEAL that's become a good friend of mine, and he was a Navy SEAL for 19 years, Ben Ives, and he talks about how eyes reveal intent. And I think that's really good thing, because when we get really high, what happens? The eyes go to the sky and it's all about us. And when we lose, our eyes go to the ground and they're fleeting. So it's always checking that, no matter if it gets too high or too low. And I really like that idea. This goes right into, for a young athlete or lacrosse player that might be listening, what would you say are 1 to 2 pieces of advice that you'd love to give them?
My first piece of advice, and it's such a simple saying, but I think it's one of the hardest to truly grasp, and that's control what you can control. And at Albany, we said that was your attitude and your effort. There's with the game on the rise, from my recruiting process to what kids are going through now, it's a whole different ball game. There's so many outside factors. The game is shooting up like this, and kids want to be a part of it. And there's really, 3 to 5 things that, really lead you to be getting recruited. And first and foremost, that's your grades. Second, I would say it's your performance. Third, it's what type of person are you? When coaches reach out, what type of person are you? 4 could be financials, financially for your family, distance, there's all these other little factors, but no factor involves you getting thrown off your game because there's a coach sitting on the sideline. Like, you're not going to be able to control what they're checking off, what they're crossing off, what they're circling. But what you can control is the output that you put on that field at that very moment. And if you do that to the best of your ability over and over again and over, and you treat it and you truly want it, people say they want things, but if you truly want something, time isn't going to be a thing. You're not going to think about all the hours that you put in. I can't even count how many hours I played lacrosse. It just naturally happened because I wanted it. And I think just, controlling what you can control is the first one. And then the second one is, this is one of the toughest ones for me, don't expect much. A lot of kids these days just, pick up a stick and, make one of these elite travel teams and expect, right? And when you're talking about a game that's rapidly on the rise, and we live in the United States of America where there's, hundreds of thousands of kids doing the same thing you're doing every day, it's hard to expect something because there's 100,000 other kids that are expecting the same thing. And, it's the best of the best. And, you talk about Division I lacrosse, that's 1%, right? So if it's only 1% and we're betting and we're talking numbers, I wouldn't expect much out of that, right? So instead of expecting to be that 1%, do the things necessary to put yourself in a position to be that 1%. And I think you'll have your best shot at being successful.
Please, that's an unbelievable answer. And I think they interplay with each other. I heard this idea, change your expectation to appreciation, your whole life will change. How fitting is that for this podcast? But I mean, control the controllables is a big thing. I was speaking to a parent of an athlete that's looking to get recruited even this morning. And I was discussing the difference between character versus reputation. And you don't control your reputation, but that's what matters on the recruiting circuit. You can only focus on your character. And if you want to have the right reputation, you better focus on your character day in and day out. Blaze, you talked about how you wanted to play lacrosse and you've always wanted to play lacrosse. You play lacrosse now roughly all year round, give or take, from the Team USA, from PLL, NLL. Is it ever too much? How do you find a balance or harmony within your life? What would be your answer to lacrosse is such a big part of what you do? How do you find the balance?
Lacrosse is so many things to me. It's my identity. It's my safe place. It's my living. I'm an adult now. It's more than a game to me in many ways. Both financially and mentally, and just as a competitor. I think we all evolve as people, and people veer different directions and find things that make them feel happy. And forever, it could be money, it could be fame, it could be just comfort, it could be quiet, it could be, all the above. But for me, what fuels me every day is just competition. And it's something about that this game that you can't find anywhere else in this world. I have a ton of friends, we golf, we play sports, we compete in everything that we do, but it's not the same, right? It's not, it's not the in between the lines and the same feeling. And I think, that continues to drive me to this day through, the injuries, the travel, all the stuff that goes along with being a professional athlete that no one sees. Through it all, I see the competition, and that competition, kind of just pumps air into my love for the game, and it's continuing to grow. I'm always a glass half full type guy. And I think to myself, when things get a little bit hard, and I said it in the PLL bubble last year when we were 0-4 and people are looking at the ground and, just having an utterly terrible time, playing this game, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We're not sitting at an office desk right now. We're all healthy. We're all standing here. We're all, doing what we love. Maybe at this moment you're not feeling that love, but deep down, you love what we do. And think about how many people would give up almost anything and everything to be standing in this position. And it's as simple as that, right? I'm standing here. I'm grateful. I'm not going to let this moment pass me because it's never guaranteed again. So just, it's all there, man. It still is. The fire's huge.
I tell you what, I just want to pull on this thread a little bit more. During your one of your acceptance speeches, if not both, at the award ceremony this year, something that kind of stuck with me is you talked about how lacrosse gave you an identity, and you just did again how it gave you an identity. And I liked it because I really believe that the best in their craft express themselves through their work. An artist does that. If you look at all throughout the lacrosse world, it's such a creative game, but you see the personality come out in that person's lacrosse play, right? And I kind of just want you to go a little bit deeper into that and maybe elaborate on what you meant in lacrosse giving you an identity.
Yeah, identity is different than character or anything along those lines. It's more for me just having a platform and having a stage, and you find identities through multiple occupations. And some people have an identity because they drive nice cars. Some people have an identity because they have a good social media following. Some people have an identity because they're great teachers. I remember my second grade teacher and how much of an impact she had on me. To me, that's an identity. Like, her identity wore on me. And the fact that I could, step inside that crease and, have people's eyeballs open and, at the edge of their seat and enjoy these moments alongside me. And then, being a full-time lacrosse player, my job doesn't end there. I'm in the communities, I'm in schools, I'm working lacrosse clinics, and now I get to, look face to face with these kids. And I remember, certain people in my life that their identities were a bit stronger than others throughout my lifetime. And I remember those people always stuck with me the most. Like, I always was bug-eyed, locked in everything that they had to say. And I think I found that through lacrosse. I enjoy playing, but I enjoy just as much spreading this game that I love and just being able to talk to kids and be around kids and be a kid. And I think some of these conversations that we have, if it wasn't for me being a professional lacrosse player and I'm just, a guy on the street walking up trying to have these conversations, I don't think they would really hit as much. And I believe in what I'm saying, and I have the best interest for, the game, the kids around me, and, pretty much everyone around me. Anyone that's ever around me, I have the best interest for. It just helps, that my identity is through this game that we love.
When I speak about coaching, because I arguably think it's the hardest thing in the world to do on a consistent basis, and perhaps the most important, the idea that comes to mind for me is that you can teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. Right. So anytime you walk into one of those schools, it's much different that you are who you are in terms of your identity than some random guy coming off the street, because they look up to you and now they have something to chase just by who you are. Right. And I oftentimes have this conversation, especially in the world of high performance, is there's a big difference between surviving, which is playing not to lose, versus striving, which is playing to win. And you talked about your competitive fire, the identity of you being in that crease and risking it all with the possibility of a season ending the way it did last year versus this year is what it's all about. And we talked about the meaningful losses. I really think it does come down to risk, right? We're willing to risk it, right? And there is something to be said about that when it comes to identity. Shifting in between the survival and striving conversation, I do want to have a little speed round here. Go back to the kid type questions to pull it out of you. So I had a rapid fire round of questions that I just want to ask you so listeners can get to know you a little bit better, okay?
Let's go.
What's your favorite movie, Blaze?
My favorite movie is Remember the Titans.
Your favorite food?
Steak, medium rare.
Medium rare. Anything on the side or no?
The mashed potatoes, asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, mac and cheese, you name it, I'm in it.
Okay, bring it all. I love that. Who's your favorite athlete outside of lacrosse?
My favorite athlete outside of lacrosse is probably Kobe Bryant. Mamba mentality.
Love it. Your most refreshing drink after a long day or a workout?
Most refreshing drink. I'm either water or on the weekends after championships a nice cold Coors Light.
Love it. If you could have dinner with three people in our sport that you've never had dinner with, who would those three people be?
That are currently playing or just have been involved in the sport?
Anybody. They don't have to keep playing.
I'd say Oren Lyons for the roots of the game. Say Jim Brown, just freak athletes, been around it all. And my third would probably be Brian Doherty, a guy that I looked up to my entire career, goalie, ton of wisdom. And I'm lucky enough that I do coach with him and around him on a daily basis. So the fact that I still chose him, speaks wonders about how I feel about being around there.
Brian, set up a dinner date, man. So, that was a perfect way and segue, because I didn't know if you would go comedy in any of those three guys, and you chose all wisdom. But I'm going to shift this to a different type of structure that I like to do almost with every guest, which is hero, highlight, hardship. Who is one or two people in your life that you've really looked up to, whether it's lacrosse or otherwise, as one of your heroes, a highlight, maybe even more than one that really keeps the fire burning. And then on the other side that you've added to the narrative that's really helped you become who you are, what's a hardship?
Yeah, the simple answer for hero is my family. They've done everything for me. They're there by my side. But more specifically, I think, hero/idol was Tim Sudan, current Chrome coach, Fairport High School graduate. USA captain, NLL, MLL, scored the first 2-pointer, kind of did it all. And to me, he kind of paved the path and showed me that a guy that walked the same halls as me and went through the same program as me and, kind of grew up the same as me, was able to get to the most, high point that our game has to offer, the most elite status. And to me, that kind of, once you start shoveling the driveway and you got that first stripe, then it's just kind of, you're just flowing through it type thing. So Tim Sudan's definitely, my hero/idol, along with my parents and my brother. And then a moment that stuck with me was actually recently. It was in 2019. I've been a captain in my years past at the University of Albany and in high school and stuff like that. But Joe Resiteris was our offensive. He was assistant captain, and he was out of the lineup for the night with an illness. And I walked in the locker room, and I'm one of the youngest guys on the team, and I have an A on my chest. And for the first time, honestly, in my career, maybe besides walking into the Carrier Dome for the first time as a freshman, I was like, whoa. I was like, I kind of didn't think the moment was too big, but it definitely was one of those ones that you didn't just, cruise by. I was like, and I look around and I see all these grown men and guys that have been around the game so long, and I just know, how meaningful that is, and especially to do it for your country. So that's the moment that keeps it burning. And then my hardship would definitely have to be, either last year's championship. I just felt like so much fell on my shoulders and so much went into that game, and being in a bubble for a month adds a little extra weight of you were there for 30 days, whatever. But I also would say that my biggest one was when I got cut from the Buffalo Bandits my second year in the NLL. I was the backup goalie on the Rochester Rattlers for John Galloway. and, put all my eggs in a lacrosse basket and got cut. And for the first time in my career, I was kind of facing some adversity, and, and I'm a young pro, and it's a bigger stage than I've ever, had to deal with. So all that coming at me at once, I worked for UPS delivering packages during the holidays, and, I raked leaves and kind of just grinded it out. And through the whole time, I just knew on the other side there's going to be brighter lights. And, I have a logo with my initials and my number, and it's secluded by a circle. And I explain the circle is everything in life's, full circle. What goes around comes around. And I knew my time would shine again, and I just kept my chin down. So those are three big waning things that, have helped define my career to this point.
I get so excited with an answer like that, because people can look at your recent success and snap judgment. Wow, he's had it all, and he's had it all always, right? And that's certainly not the case. And I love that we go deeper like this, and people see that you were grinding it out, and that there's more to the narrative, and there's more to the story. So I mean, it's one of those things where this is a great opportunity for me, not only to get to know you better, but also for others can say, wow, maybe I should look at life with a little bit more curiosity rather than judgment. Maybe I should stay a little bit more optimistic in those dark times. And, those adversities in our life, right, reveal the character that we were talking about earlier. I had no idea that about your story in that way, and it's just so exciting. I know I asked you about the advice you would give to a youngin, whether they're a young lacrosse player coming up or an athlete. My favorite question that I can ask anybody, especially those that are older than me, is what do you know now that you wish you knew then? And I want to ask you, what's something that you know now that you wish you knew as a rookie or as a young pro?
I would say that I go by this saying. I'm not sure who says it. I might have created it myself, or my own version. But I say the road with the most bumps often leads to the most success. And I think the one of the biggest things, other than the awards and the showtime and the whatever you think of me as a player, I think what's most important is that I'm most proud of the fact that every hill that I've climbed I've conquered. And and it doesn't matter how many there are, whether it's my weight or being a kid that had to work extra hard in school, or traveling to the res and leaving family and friends and being on the road, and all these little things, all these hills that I've climbed through my career. I've climbed every single one of them because I'm still here and I'm still standing. And whether that is 3 goalie of the year awards later in a championship or not, those don't define me. Those those are just the rewards of getting to where I am right now, and that's what I'm truly proud of.
Double clicking on that, you're talking about how, even the outcome, I've been talking about this since we won the championship. The outcome was so great. And what if we lost again, right? What if we lost again, right? What would have been different? What have been the same? It's a tough question to ask because we did win, but at the end of the day, it is about that journey. It is about who we become. I remember posting on social about a conversation you and I were having in the end of 2019 about, we're putting all we have into this, and the outcome is most likely a loss at the end of each season. I don't know. We've played six seasons. We've won one championship. So it's usually a loss, right? And so you must find love of the bumpy roads that you just gave us. So, now that you've reached a pinnacle, not the pinnacle, a pinnacle in your road as a professional lacrosse player, and reaching the top of your craft and sharpening that, what would you say is next? Is there anything inside the sport or what you want to do with the sport that you haven't yet checked off that you definitely want to?
I definitely want to continue to make a bigger impact in the National Lacrosse League and both the Premier Lacrosse League. Trust me, I'm not satisfied with where I am by any stretch of the imagination. And, I think true success is valued through consistency. And, I've chapter 1 is, now closing, and it was a good chapter, but if I don't continue, on this, then the story ends, and people often forget by chapter 16 what happens in chapter 1, right? And that's not going to be, that's something that keeps me fueled. And I had something else that I was going to put is let me get back to you if I can think of it. What else?
And the thing is, the last question I usually ask is, what's your definition of greatness? And you already answered it. So we're going to have to finish on a different question, because your definition of true success and greatness is through consistency.
Oh, I got what I was going to say. I think it's important, it trickles back to talking about our identity and making an impact. And one of the things that my dad, when he was coaching and as a parent, always told me, and our team, and wherever we were around, he said, if you can leave it better than you found it, the world's going to be in a better place. And with the recent retirement of a lot of these legends of our game, Paul Rabel, John Galloway, Joel White, Kyle Harrison, all these legends, that's one thing that stuck with all those guys. You see all the praise that they got, and people are talking about their goals and showing some highlights, but what really truly impressed me the most is the fact that they left this game in better hands than they found it. And that's ultimately success for me. Adding another stepping stone to one day, hopefully I'm sitting on my couch when I'm 65 years old, watching the Premier Lacrosse League and watching kids, young kids live out the dream that I had, and, be making more money and to have a bigger stage, and the sport to be, shined on more, and Native Americans to be talked about more, and, all those little contributing factors, I think, will help me close my book on my story, eventually one day.
When I created this podcast, Blaze, I came with the interplay of grateful and full of greatness. And then I came through episodes and episodes and episodes to really realize that there is a yin and yang between them. You talked about the loneliness of being on the road, working through hard times, really going for it. And really that kind of healthy dose of ego and going after it yourself through lonely endeavors allows you to be great. And then the gratitude side of it is everything else, the love and the care and the thankfulness and appreciation for those that helped you get here and the ones you're yet to meet. And there is a yin and yang, because it requires you to be great individually, go out on this journey, this adventure, kind of like Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and then find these amazing people and then really leave a legacy and pay it forward. So shifting away from you as a player and to coaching, could you share a little bit more about who your most valuable coaches were, and maybe what you took, maybe the top thing that you took away from each coach?
Yeah, I talked about it, and, you talk about my success, and, the first answer that I gave you was that I was surrounded by the right people my whole career. And every coach along my journey, one thing they all had in common is that they brought love and passion to the game. And the other thing that they all had in common is that they gave me the greatest gift that you could give anyone, and that was their undivided attention and their time. A lot of people put a lot of time into me, and from a personal standpoint, my father was the first one that got me into the game, and I think the thing that wore on me the most when he was coaching me was that he never once talked about winning and losing. He just talked about having fun, and at no point were we not having fun. So I'd say my dad really instilled fun into me. And then I get into high school, and my high school coach, Mike Torelli, and preached the importance of one unit, and, it's not a group of individuals, and, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I just remember, walking through the halls of high school, and there's like 35 of us guys that it's like we're all the best friends, like, oh, there's lacrosse, and that's something that I still hold special to my heart, that I love. I love being in a locker room with guys and smiling and, getting to know people through extreme emotion. That's, what happens inside a locker room. You can't really find anywhere else. And then I get to college, and Coach Marr preached the importance. And I think this was great timing for me, when you talk about these personal things that I've picked up along the way, is that he said the best version of me is just being me. And it's something that I struggled with a little bit, growing up, being a little bit of the chubbier kid, and, hitting puberty late. And, I always had friends, and I was always, smiling and stuff like that. But deep down, like, I think it affected the way coaches recruited me and looked at me. And, I was still a top 50 recruit my whole career, but yet I still wasn't getting the messages that, some of these other guys were getting. And, Coach Marr explained to me that, you're you for a reason, and I have you here for a reason, and I'm not going to use you, as another puzzle piece. I'm going to let you shine, and we're going to shine around you. And once we get that, that star nice and bright, then there's going to be no stopping us. And then you bring it to, my professional career, and I had Tim Sudan as my head coach for the Rochester Rattlers and Dallas Rattlers. And, without saying anything, I think he showed me I wouldn't say it was tough love, because he always, had my best needs, and, he didn't say anything that really affected me. But, he was my high school coach. He saw me growing up, and, to anyone else, you'd say, oh, why doesn't he just throw him in a game here or there, and he never did that. He made me earn every minute that I played. And, it helped that I was sitting behind, all-world goalie John Galloway, so that didn't make his decision too hard. But I still felt that a little bit, that he wasn't just going to hand me anything. Oh, you're one of my dad's best friends, hey, you're going to start this one, all right? Your dad's in the crowd, stuff like that. Oh, we're playing in Rochester in front of your home crowd. Like that was a little part of it. And, I learned a lot from John, and along that way too. And then you get to Coach Towers, and, for me, Coach Towers, he says it about me. He's no fluff. He's all substance. He kind of tells it how it is. And he's passionate about it. And what I admire the most about Coach Towers is, without him even saying a word, and he says a lot of them, and he says them loud, if you just observe him and think about his journey, getting to our games every weekend, and bringing his son James and his family everywhere he goes, and that's a big commitment. And he's not making that, we know what goes into it. He's not ultimately making that commitment for himself, right? He's making that commitment for us, and I really admire the fact that, he puts that time and effort, and it's the best thing you can give to anyone. And I'm just super grateful that it led to us winning a championship, and his son, James, to be in the locker room with us, experiencing those moments, because, it reminds me when I was a 9-year-old kid on the Rattler sideline with Coach Sudan, because my dad was his friend, and just being an ooh and an on, and the full circle then comes back around, so
For sure,
it's just all great, man. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
All right. What feeling hit you harder? That's not the best way of asking it, but was it losing the championship last year or winning the championship this year?
Wow.
In
terms of, I would have to say the high of winning the championship immediate was higher than the level in which I felt the sadness. However, the sadness and frustration lasted longer. right? So I would just say, if I were to describe it, it was just I didn't know that I could feel that kind of joy from going on a journey with our group, but just to start off 0-3 and have everybody in the world counting us out, and then us to believe in that locker room, that allowed us to go to a really high spike in joy and emotion for me after we won it. But I don't know what it was, Blaze. It stuck with me for a very long time in terms of sadness and frustration after the last one. Does that answer it?
I feel like you stole my answer. Exactly
No.
what I was thinking. I said, I don't think I've ever in a moment in time have really truly been that happy. But I said, I don't think there's one thing in my life. And you talk about those hills, right? I talked about climbing those hills. These hills are hills that are 365-day hills, right? The faster I can get over them, the faster I'm going to find that curve. And, last year's experience definitely was one of the longest hills that I faced in my life and anything that I did.
I know you would agree with me that like lacrosse is a platform and it's a metaphor for life. I was just taking down everything you're saying about from your dad all the way to Coach Towers, how it's got to be fun. You got to find a team or one unit. You have to earn it, right? If like that's the first thing that I wrote to social. We earned this. This was earned. This was not given to anybody. And then all the way to Towers in terms of full commitment. And if you can get a cocktail of all those coaches and put them into a group that you're coaching or inspiring, or maybe it's not even a team, but you look down and you pay it forward to someone, you're gonna have something really special. And you as a coach, Blaze, I want you to talk a little bit about your program that you're starting, but more importantly, I want you to share what messages you repeat to those teams most often, to your players. What do you find yourself saying to them most often? Because you learned all this from your great coaches, but now you're a coach. What is the messages you're getting across most often to your program?
Yeah, I mean, I coach all facets of lacrosse. But most recently, my most recent endeavor was that I created BR10 Lacrosse, where I now own 3 box lacrosse teams: Pee Wee, Phantom, and Midget, which is 5th and 6th grade, 7th and 8th, and 9th and 10th. And my goal is to continue to grow box lacrosse throughout the United States. It's still currently a Canadian and a Canadian dominated version of our game. And I think that the lessons that I've learned through that game, and you could speak on that now that you've got a season of box, is you take all those experiences and you use them. And, every time you collect a new experience and you put them in your little piggy bank, I think that's just as important as collecting $1, right? And, the one thing that I always stood tall on was in order to see where you're going, you must know where you've been. And when I teach box lacrosse, I grew up. My first version was playing on a Native American reservation where we traveled to Montreal, Quebec, and played on concrete and with wooden sticks. And it was brutal games, and they call it the game of war at times. And there's a little tough nose about it. And I just remembered like feeling pain, but then playing another game the next day. And I think, and I say it to you all the time, like, with these nicks and crannies through our sport, these bruises, your toe, all this, it's the same thing in life. You're gonna get those bumps and bruises along the way, but as soon as you learn that you're still standing and you're still there, they kind of go hand in hand. So I teach real box lacrosse, cross checking, body checking, in the most controlled manner that I can. And the 3 biggest things that I preach are my main one, which is to have fun. 2 is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's new to a lot of these kids. It's fast. And then you add the element of a little bit of fear. There's cross-checking, there's hitting. It's way more aggressive than the version that they're used to playing. And then the third one is, toughness, and just kind of learning, if you get your knee scraped up a little bit, like, yeah, it hurts and I know it, but if you can stand up, like keep rolling and you're going to be okay. And, those three foundations are ones that were brought to me when I first started playing. And I think it just trickles into life perfectly. So that's currently where I'm at.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, one of the words that I've not stumbled upon, but I've really highlighted and emphasized as of late is the word courage, because you're doing it with fear. You're doing it with fear, not in the absence of fear. There's never going to be an absence of fear. If you're risking it and you're actually competing for something, and there's people that don't want you to win, and there's pressure and there's stress, you got to find courage, which is doing it with fear, not without it, but with fear. And I love how, if you're going to throw in a little toughness and fun along the way too, to build some courageous players is probably what this world needs more of, not just on the lacrosse field or floor, but in life. Blaze, coming full circle, I want probably the best question I can ask you is what makes you tick to this day, not just in lacrosse, but you have a competitive fire that's top 1% of 1% that I've ever seen. What makes you tick day in and day out?
I think, just, knowing that the next minute's not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. And, I think it's important, I'm going by the saying that I told myself a couple years back that, I'm not here currently to reflect. I'm here to collect. As I got my 2 feet, I'm healthy, I'm happy. I got people in this world that care about me, and I care about a lot of people. And that's really all I need in my corner to, live my best life. And, I'm super grateful, and I'm not going to waste a moment, because ultimately, we factor back to lacrosse. The book is going to eventually close, and we're getting to a point where, we're almost on that second half of the book. And you look back at the journey of the last 6 years of our professional lacrosse career, and they've been some of the best moments of my life. And, when you look forward and, that's all you have left on your slate, man, there's not a second that I'm going to waste. There can't be, because once it's gone, just like anything else. And I'm just going to hold tightly onto these moments and continue to go full speed in everything I do.
If there's anything that I want people to learn, not just your story and your narrative and your perspective, but both directly and indirectly, you're so present, man, through this Zoom meeting and every time I'm in a locker room, every time we're together, we're eyes bulging, conversing about real things with great depth. And I admire, it's cool being around you, because your presence is contagious. And I know you gave an answer to true success is consistency, but I'm going to ask you it anyway. Your resonation of gratitude has come through every answer, whether you said you were thankful for them or not. But the last question I ask everybody is, what does greatness look like to you? How would you define greatness?
I think you can, and when I say you, I mean you personally. I think you can only define greatness. A lot like the notion that people watch you play for 48 minutes. They see me for 48 minutes once a week. I truly know what goes on, the 24 hours in my life. And it's greatness is something that I need to be able to look in the mirror and, tell myself, that I'm doing it to the best of my ability, and that I don't have any regrets, and that, I can know that I'm doing things with the right intentions. It doesn't mean that it always has to be correct, but, as long as my intentions are correct, I think that's greatness, because you're spreading, love and knowledge, and, you want the best for people, and you just want to leave something better than you found it. And, and then along with that, you just add the little cherry on top, and you start lining up your fingers with some of those blingy rings from winning championships. And I think now I think you're big. Now I think you're big greatness. So
I love it.
That's all it is, man.
Blaze, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, on the intentions front, on being the best version of yourself, there's a Hall of Fame baseball coach, Skip Berkman, that once said, first we will be best and then we will be first. You know, we did start off 0-3, and we found a way to end up on top. And I think it does start with being best first, right? Because the losses, they come and go, the wins, they come and go, but kind of going on that journey with hungry individuals is really what made it really special. And not only just to be a teammate of yours, but to become close friends has really been special. Thanks for making the time and coming on here, man.
Anytime, champ. So fired up. Let's go.